The alarm's going off, man. Stop hitting snooze. I need you. If you're looking to feel like warm and fuzzy inside, like I'm your guy, so
they're in my top 20 EHL teams for sure.
There's emotion, there's hatred. This is not like a very friendly series. It's like SpongeBob when he's got like the napkin and like the potato chip. Like that's how I feel. Listen, Colson, I didn't have fun. Everything in my body hurts right now. The team that has the lead in the second period is just not going to win that game. There's no need for air quotes. He's tardy all the time. It's the American thing to do. I was alive, just not very. No, don't get pucks deep. Hang on to the puck. Pass the puck. Shoot the puck. Are we live? Are we live? We're having a good time.
JKP, baby. JKP.
Hello, E-Show, and welcome into another installment of the Summer Coaches Series edition to the podcast. We are now in our EHLP sessions, and we have Sam Tafel, head coach of the Union Junior Thunder, joining us. Coach Sam, thank you for being here.
Wow, I'd love to be here. I'm glad to be part of the P preview. So, I'm glad to kick it off for you guys.
Yes, sir. We're happy to have you heading into your fifth season in the EHL Premier and fresh off the most successful one for UJT at the junior level to date. So from the get-go this past season, you guys, were on that strong trajectory. You won your first 4 straight, won 11 out of your first 15. So how do you think your guys were able to find their footing and consistency so quickly out of the gate this year?
I think a big part of it is the amount of ice we have to start. We have a long training camp and we have a long preseason, which really helps us get ready for the games. And another part of it for me and just the way I go about things is it's a major focus on our habits, our style of play, little things and skills that we want to be doing as opposed to overall systems and things like that. I got a whole season to do those. So going in our first couple games, especially that first 10 game stretch, it's less of a focus on systems, even though it's there. It's more, what are good habits? What are good skills? What are things that are going to put us in a position to be successful, regardless of what the system is? And that's kind of the things that we really focus on in our preseason, which this past season did help us in those first quarter of the season.
Absolutely. We're going to talk big on development in a little bit, but I want to talk about your division in the EHLP, the Mid-Atlantic, the most parity that we've seen, I think, in both of our 4 seasons leading up to this year. Everybody beats everybody, but there are certain advantages. You guys had a ton of success against the team that won the division in the Atlantic City Seals, who beat the 87s in the regular season series, who beat you guys in the regular season series. So with all this, do you feel like styles are what really make the matchups in the EHLP South, as they say?
I think part of it's the styles, but I got to give credit to, the coaches and the organizations. I think it's, obviously North does too, but I know South, every organization is well run and well coached, and they do what they need to do to build good teams and put those teams to be in situations to be successful. So that's what I really, that turns into styles, that turns into those different types of games. I remember year before we beat the 87s a bunch, and then, we didn't lose to the Little Flyers at all. Then we lost them in playoffs, So like every year's been different. Every year's been super competitive. Sometimes it comes down to styles, but I feel like we're just focusing on styles. We're drawing it up for luck and just who happens to come in. I got to give credit to all the organizations, the way they're run, the way they're coached. And I think that's why you get a super exciting South in the EHL.
Yeah, I mean, really what it came down to at the end of the year was really so cool. But what is the preparation like in the later goings of the seasons when both players and coaches are so familiar with each other?
Yeah, I think we know each other. So it's to make sure we stay true to ourselves. I think when you get to know your opponent, you need to make adjustments and things to put yourself to be in a situation to be successful, but you don't want to go over your skis too much and put yourself in a situation where you're changing who you are. So it's making those adjustments, but it's staying true to who you are. And sometimes things are going to get in your way that, make things challenging, but it's finding ways to hone yourself to be the best version of yourself and to continue to overcome that. And as you get in those later part of the seasons in your 6-7 game series against your divisional opponents.
And speaking of those, later moments, it came down to the last handful of games of the season, that playoff race. The 1-4 matchup was a mad scramble, especially, in the month of March and the beginnings of April. So what was your message to the team during that time of the year and throughout the season? How keyed in were guys to that playoff race, even though it might have been earlier how things were shaking out?
It's funny. My guys sometimes make fun of me that I don't look at the standings. The message is actually the same all year for our group. It's a long season, so what we really do is we break up the season into 5 game series and 3 game series. So we're always going in a 3 game series. We're always going in a 5 game series, and we look to win that series. What was really cool for us is I did look at the standings a bit, of course, especially towards the end. And the way the points worked out is if we won our 5 game series at the end of the year, we would have actually been in a situation to win the division. So I didn't even need to say, "Hey, we need to do X, Y, and Z to win the division." All I had to say was, "We just need to keep doing what we've been doing all year." We didn't accomplish that in terms of winning that 5 game series to do that. But for me, it was important to be consistent. And the whole year was, let's win the series in front of us, win the series in front of us. And that didn't even change when we got towards the end of the year.
And that second half had a couple more challenges for you guys than the first. Was there anything specific that you thought the team, had to overcome, or were they just still playing with that same level, just not finding the results that they had in the first half?
I think it was a little bit of both. We had a really good season, really good team. Every good team has some weaknesses. One of ours is when things weren't going our way, it was hard for us to pull out of it, which we saw a bit towards the end of the year. But the focus really became being resilient and finding a way to do that. And I got to give a lot of credit to this group. Even though winning that division didn't happen, it would have been really easy to just kind of curl up and go home. And they didn't do that. They pulled themselves out of it. We fixed some things. We got back to our style of play towards the end of the regular season. And we went in against a tough opponent with the Huntsmen, who were really doing a lot better towards the end of the year, and were able to pull out a first-round victory in the playoffs. So while we didn't finish the way we wanted in terms of winning that division, got to give a lot of credit to them being resilient and pulling themselves out of it, even when things weren't going their way, and getting themselves in a situation to win a playoff series.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And another, big strong point of a really strong year for you guys was the power play operating at above 23%. Now back-to-back years with a power play that's above 20%. How have you found sort of a groove on the man advantage over the past 2 years?
One thing is putting guys in the right places. Seeing the personnel we got, seeing the type of players we got, and then making sure we put them in the right places to be successful. Big thing for me is being collaborative. I respect our players a lot. They're well trained, they're well coached before they get to us. Obviously, we're doing some refining here that makes UJT, but I respect what they have to say about the game. So we also ask our players for input on the process. We don't always agree. I might not always do what they ask, but I always want to know what they're thinking, what they're looking to do, and how we could put them in a position to be successful. Uh, our program also offers around 10 hours of ice a week and practice, sometimes more. So we devote a significant amount of time to power play. So I got to give a lot of credit to not only the facilities in terms of giving us that ice, but our staff who help us run that, especially some of our assistants like Kyle Remo and David Seacack, who really work one-on-one with our guys in the power play and put it in a situation where it needs to be.
Absolutely, and that helped a lot of your guys climb the ranks and the EHL leaderboards this year in terms of stats. Dang, Zavorka, Michka, all those guys, were amongst the most high-level producers in the EHLP, and they all obviously come from European backgrounds, and the team had a lot of that flair this year. So how do you think that has impacted the style of play that your team has on the ice?
Well, especially a lot of every player we get, but especially a lot of the Europeans, they come really refined with their skills. Skills and skating, they come in at extremely high level there. And a lot of people always ask me like, "Oh, are you helping them adjust to playing in North America?" Part of it's that. I'd say a lot of these guys are ready to play in North America, but are just looking for that opportunity to be put in a situation where they can use their skills effectively. And that's one thing that we do for them here. One big thing that they see in United States juniors that I feel maybe they don't see in other places is the adjustments that are teams that are making against them. Especially in our division, in our league, you see a team a certain amount of times. They know you. they know you and you know me, like, so that was a thing where I really like working with our guys to say, hey, you've been really successful doing X, Y, and Z. You're still going to be really successful, but the team you're playing knows you do X, Y, and Z. We got to throw in a couple other letters there and a couple other wrinkles to keep them on their toes. So that's one thing I know that our players really benefit from when they come here is they learn to be a professional, if that's the way to put it. Obviously, they're on the pros, but the goal is the way hockey is now, junior hockey, college hockey. It's almost a profession, and we help them get to that place.
For sure. And what have you learned about, helping those players get acclimated to, not only playing in the States, like you mentioned, a lot of them are ready, but, living here and being comfortable, in the community and in the locker room and all that?
That's a big part of it. I might come up later, but I got to give a lot of credit to our first couple of years here. Really, the support from the rink, the support from the community, those players just built an environment that was really welcoming. No matter where you're from, even if your English isn't so good, sometimes it's a place where you're accepted and you're helped and you're put into a scenario where you can not only thrive on the ice, but thrive off the ice. I can't tell you how many times I get a text from one of my players who might be out of the country saying, hey coach, I'm going to go with so-and-so, have dinner with their family. So a big thing, a lot of that comes from the staff and the organization, but I got to give a lot of credit just to the environment that Union is that helps these players adjust to, having not only a positive on ice experience, but a positive off ice experience.
And you can see the examples of that positivity in your retention rate, which, is obviously lower at the premier level with guys wanting to move on than at the EHL. But, not in your building. You're able to bring back a lot of guys. Simon Zavorka, a guy who, didn't have a ton of points to the top prospect D, now moving on to the EHL in a matter of a couple of years. Nick Dove, a multi-year guy going on to Acha. Marco Mora is another one. Garbowski, a guy who has developed exceptionally with you over the course of time, becoming one of the top goaltenders in the Premier last year. So how much pride do you take in the fact that these guys want to be back year after year and are not just coming back, but they are getting better throughout this process?
It's huge for us. I sometimes joke when I'm talking to a player, I tell them my whole goal is to get rid of you, right? But everybody has a different timeline. And my main focus with our players is when you come to Union, you're here to advance. Sometimes that advance is physical in terms of you believe our team and you move up to the next level. But sometimes that advancement is guys coming back a second year and advancing their level of play, advancing their production, and players see that. And so with us really showing that early on, even in our first couple seasons, like a player like Ryan Byington would have been a good example of that, who played first year, came back second year, one of our leading scorers and captains. Players see that and they know if they come to Union, they're going to have a good experience on and off the ice and that they're going to advance one way or another. So that's something that's really helped our retention rate. And another big thing too, it sometimes comes down to math. We are usually one of the younger teams in the league, but the EHLP is designed to get guys ready for the EHL. So for me to do that, my players need to be at a certain age where we're able to develop them and have the time we need with them to get them ready for that next step.
And I know you expect some great retention from this upcoming season on the signings that you guys have announced on social media. There's going to be a good amount of returners. So do you expect that to help, help your team have a similar start to this year, or is that something that's kind of hard to tell before you get those steps on the ice?
Yeah, having the returners, especially the ones that we have coming back, I'm really excited about. I expect them to really set the tone for our team, set the standard, and be a positive example for our new guys. And I know they're going to help a lot with that. But one thing I love about coaching is every year is different. There's always new nuances, new challenges. So will it translate to the same start as last year? Maybe, maybe not. But I do know that all of our returning guys are going to be successful in the sense of really setting the tone for the type of team we want to be and the type of season we want.
Absolutely. And now we're gonna get the chance to talk about that development that you alluded to and the time spent at the rink. You mentioned that the Euros love to get the multiple skates in a day. You guys that are still in high school as well. You guys are to make the ice time work for them after their schooling. So with the amount of ice time that's available to your guys, you guys do a ton of film as well. How have you noticed your players making the most of those opportunities to end their development?
For me, it's providing the resources and teaching them how to use the resources, and the results speak for themselves. But I think a big thing about our level in the EHLP, the way I view it, is we need to get you ready for the next level, right? The EHL and eventually college. And as you know, especially when you get to college, you're going to have to balance multiple things. You're probably going to have a rink on campus, near campus, or you're on the ice a lot. But you got to balance school, you got to balance life, and the amount of ice and work that we provide in terms of our film, in terms of our on ice or skills, that helps them on ice, but their packed schedule also forces them to be effective off the ice with their schooling and their everything else they do. So being able to incorporate those two things really, I think, builds a full athlete that isn't only successful for us at the P level, but as you see with with a lot of our guys, I think every guy that moves up, they're successful at the next level too. And our first NCAA commit, Tyler Gobel, I mean, captain his freshman year at WestCon. So again, continuing to be successful, with the foundation that I'd like to think we helped build here.
But yeah, there's no doubt about it. That elevation now, like you said, coming in the form of guys that are making the jump to the EHL level, preparing them for the next level. Walker, Farkas, Kubina, all guys that played for the Apple Corps this past year. Sadowski, Dank, Zavorka, all elevating to the EHL for the upcoming year. Sadowski and Dank will be together on Elite. Tyler Gobel, now, like you mentioned, he was a captain at both levels, now a captain at the NCAA level, helping inaugurate an NCAA program last year. So, what common themes do you see amongst those guys that are able to climb the ranks and again, like make the most of the resources available?
Yeah. Well, one, you kind of mentioned the previous, they love being at the rink. I mean, you can't get those guys away from the rink. And it's funny, it's almost all of our guys, but especially those guys. I can't have optional. If guys are looking tired, I can't have an optional day because they're still going to show up. So I'd almost have to say there's nothing going on. Stay home, because they take advantage of the resources. They do the extra work. They'd come into the office and want to do extra film outside of the team film. But I think a common theme with them, but I'd say almost all of our program, the players that come in, is their focus was on development. Like success for them was developing and become a better player on off the ice. Don't get me wrong; they wanted to win. Tyler from his interviews; he's a fierce competitor and he does not like losing any bit. But I think, with that said, him and these other guys, winning or losing, their focus was, what am I going to do to become a better player? What am I going to do to help my team be a better team? Now, obviously, they want a certain result with that, but their focus was, what's the process I need to do to develop and make sure I get to the next level? And they weren't necessarily focused on wins, losses, points. Those things came naturally with the work they put in. So those would really be the things that all those guys have in common, along with, the way we preach our program to everybody.
Absolutely, and part of that, selling your team is the relationships you have with not only your EHL affiliate, the New York Apple Corps, who we see guys get full-time opportunities with, like the guys we mentioned in the last question, but as well getting spotted into the games throughout the year, like teams that have affiliates in the same building. But your general relationship with EHL coaching staffs. How do you maintain those and ensure that your guys are going to be, amongst the first in line to get looks when teams are looking to reload for the following year?
Yeah, for me, start with Apple Core. They were there for us from day one. Started with Lenny, continue with Connell, and but we really built something special with Josh Fusco when he took over this past season. The way we integrated our programs together and really almost operate as one has really created a special opportunity development for our players in house, so to speak. In terms of getting our guys to the EHL, though, I mean, the EHLP is built to get guys to the EHL. End of story. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't help our guys do that. And a big part of that is maintaining good relationships with organizations and promoting your players. I'm our players' harshest critic, but I also tell them I'm their number one fan, so it's making sure that we're doing those types of things. And I think a big thing too, to give credit to the league, is our showcases. Showcases are great. All of our EHL coaches do their homework. They're going to go on Instat. They're going to watch this year EHL TV, the previous provider before, but they're going to watch, they're going to do their homework, but being in the building, especially at our first two, the Walpole showcase and the Aston showcase, you can't walk 10 feet without just bumping into an EHL coach. And I think those events have been great for those coaches, not only to see our players live, but to meet our players and get to know them as people, which I think is a big part of their recruiting and a big reason why our players, have the interest they get at that next level.
Yeah, great stuff for sure. And I know you take a ton of pride in your ability to move guys on to the ACHA level as well. I mean, it's getting harder and harder to get to any level at this point, ACHA, NCAA. The trickle-down effect has been challenging on players, but you continue to move guys on. We've profiled a couple of them, Ryan Walter, Tyler Camille, amongst guys from this past season who are going to be moving on, Dente, Keeney. They'll both be moving on to the ACHA level. So how do you keep your guys, options as open as possible when they're in your building and, help those guys prepare?
Absolutely. Well, the league does a great job of that for me in terms of the EHLP is a great league to get guys ready for ACHA hockey. Whether it's the style of play, the rules, the competition, the league itself does a great job. So our players just playing this league alone puts them in a situation where they're going to have the experience they need to step into an ACHA locker room as opposed to playing U18 if they're U18 eligible. But I think that's a big thing. And for me, in terms of keeping their options open, might be the former teacher in me, but it's educating them. It's showing them the different options. It's going over different schools. It's visiting those schools. It's getting them to visit the hockey teams. It's seeing what they like. It's seeing what they don't like and finding the best fit for them as a student and as an athlete. Those would be the things that we make sure we focus on, especially off the ice with our guys, so that they know what's ahead of them. Whether it's a move on to the EHL, whether it's a move on to ACHA, whatever that is, I make sure our players know what their decision is going to entail. And that way, whatever decision they make, it's an educated one.
Absolutely. And to finish up, I want our last little segment to be about the year-to-year improvements that have gone on at the Union Junior Thunder, from building the junior program to the ground up. How much do you give credit to those earlier 2 years for helping set the foundation for what you guys have built now as one of the strongest teams in the Premier?
Yeah, wouldn't be here without those first couple years. On ice results, they were what they were. There were some successes, there were some not successes, but I think a big thing that they really did is they just established a culture of accountability and a place where people are welcome and we do things the right way. Those are really, it's something I take a lot of pride in. And another thing too is, while that group might have not gotten results they wanted, they worked hard and they had a lot of fun. And I always tell our guys is, yeah, there's a lot of work involved. Yeah, there's some pressure involved. But we all do this because it's fun. Like, it's fun putting in that work. It's fun going through the highs and lows of a season in the end. And those groups really just embraced having fun, and something that we find ways to incorporate as we continue to build, because, people wouldn't want to do it if it's not fun. So we make sure it's a good time.
100%. And, finally, the climb in wins and in points, the results that you were mentioning, it's undeniable just from where you guys started to where you guys are now, back to back now, 500, over 500 seasons. So in your mind, what have been the biggest drivers of that on ice success?
For me, I got to give a lot of credit to our ownership, the Anderson family, Ken, Matt, Caitlin. They are there for the team. If the junior team needs something, we get it. So for them to support us the way they do, for them in the facility to provide the amount of ice they do, and for them to make sure our players are in the best position to be successful on and off the ice and just have a great experience is really important, because I think it starts at the top, right? So I got to give a lot of credit to our ownership, who puts us in a position to succeed, and has trusted myself to be able to do that. And the results have built from that, and we are where we are now, but we got to keep building. It's not over.
Now, and we look forward to year number 5 here with Coach Tafel and the Union Junior Thunder. We're fortunate to have somebody who gives as much as you do to the EHL Premier and gives as much to their players. So thank you for everything, Sam. And I look forward to seeing you, if it's at the first showcase or if it's in your building sometime before then. Looking forward to seeing you this year, Sam. Thank you.
Me too. You better pick me for the All-Star game again, all right?
I don't know, man. We're 0-1.
Well, I wasn't the head coach. You might want to step back to the GM role.
All right, I'll be more behind the scenes puppet master this year.
I'll try to dress better than you. All right, have a good one. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the E Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Learn more about us at EasternHockeyLeague.org and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when our next podcast episode is released.